Welcome to Playback, the podcast all about the Billboard Hot 100 and what's trending in music right now. I'm singer-songwriter Nina Blue.
And I am singer, songwriter, producer Jay Xander.
All right, guys, let's get into it. Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, and Idina Menzel have all dropped Scooter Braun with rumors that Justin Bieber is soon to follow. For those of you who don't
Damn.
know, Scooter Braun is most famous for managing Justin Bieber from early on in his career, but he is most infamous for his spat with Taylor Swift when he bought her former label, which included the rights to her masters, and then sold them, which has led to the re-recording of all of her albums. Have you seen this news, Jay? Like
Yeah,
I've been
it's
following it
everywhere.
like crazy.
Yeah, it's
It's
everywhere.
everywhere.
I'm just wondering what it is that caused that now, because they've been with him for like a couple years now. So it had to have been something specific, something had to have went down.
It it has to be big. Like people online
Yeah,
are speculating, are we getting a documentary that's going to drop? Like is some big news story going to drop? Is he going to get arrested? It's a big deal. He's had some shady business practices for a while. He is not beloved in this industry. But I watched this one TikTok video of this girl who went through his like client list and she's like, does he really do anything for anyone? Like, think about it. Like Ariana Grande is just now getting her first feature film. Um, he has Idina Menzel, like Demi Lovato, like are they getting what they need for their
they
career?
could have anybody
There
as
were
their
bands that are,
manager.
I mean, yeah,
They
truthfully,
don't.
but I mean, they should have had more opportunities with a voice like that. Come on.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Well, you know, you I, I guess people live and learn. You never really know a person, so
No,
things always
Carmen
come
is my
out.
boyfriend. That's my favorite part of this whole thing is that people are
Facts.
looking at vigilante shit to suppose that he's in trouble with the FBI. There's that one specific verse. Someone
Vigilante.
told his white collar crimes to the FBI. People are speculating that that's about Scooter Braun
Ooh, wow.
because they've had beef for so long. I
When
am fascinated. I want to know.
when
I hate that I don't.
when life imitates art. Anyway,
Watch as soon as we upload this podcast, it's gonna come out. Whatever
I
it was,
know.
whatever news it was.
Watch it happen like an hour after we hit post. With our
15
luck.
minutes.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. I know another podcast that jokes about that all the time. That's probably going to happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, Fire Festival 2 has been announced and tickets are selling now. Jay, are you looking forward to Fire Fest 2?
No. I can't
For those of you
imagine
who
anyone is, honestly.
That was wild. For those of you who don't remember, the first Fire Festival was a disaster of epic proportions and was the subject of two competing documentaries. I remember everyone was asking, did you watch the Hulu one or the Netflix one? At the helm of this Titanic is Billy McFarland. And when I went to look him up on his Wikipedia page to like get more information about him for the podcast, next to his name in parentheses, it lists him as fraudster as if it's like
Fraudster?
his yes, as if like it's his what is it, occupation, like that's his job. It just says fraudster.
A professional fraudster. Wow.
They're probably doing it to like differentiate from another Billy McFarland, but
Isn't there
still.
isn't there
uh
another more appropriate word for that though? Like scammer, con artist, like, ne'er-do-well. There has to be something out there that's more accurate than fraudster.
I feel like fraud is the legal term. That's why they went with that. Like
Mm.
that's what he was accused of. He's had a long history of committing fraud and was convicted and sentenced to 6 years, but released early. And now he's back on his bullshit. And while part of me respects that, I also hope the feds are keeping a close eye on him. He
Yeah,
and Scooter can relate.
yeah. And can you again clarify like what Fire Festival was for people that just like don't know?
So, Fire Festival was like organized on an island in the Bahamas. It was supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be this big, huge music festival. Um, was Ja Rule. He was part of it. He was performing. He was involved somehow.
Yeah, he was like up there with the McFarlane guy coordinating it, I think.
And they it was super last minute. They like sold out this festival when they didn't have the resources. People were trapped on an island and there was not enough food or water for them. And I mean, the videos were just absolutely so wild, and the pictures and like the eyewitness accounts. There were a lot of people who weren't paid for their labor, which was awful. And there was a huge class action lawsuit. Like people were really traumatized from this experience. I can't believe that there's going to be a fire festival too. Like I cannot believe that.
It's like insult to injury. I'm sorry if you go to this concert, you are a dumbass. Like you are just write scam on your forehead and just walk around with that for the rest of your life because that's wild. Don't go to this fucking
I
concert,
almost
y'all.
want to like pack a camping backpack and just like go and watch through binoculars, watch the chaos unfold, what
Just
may or
watch
may
it.
not happen. Apparently there have already been issues with like getting tickets. So like the website that was launched to sell the tickets is like not working.
Not working.
I I don't
This
know.
feels like a
I
setup
don't
for
understand.
the first one already sounded like it was giving Lord of the Flies, and this one is like about to be Lord of the Flies Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. You know what I mean? It's like it's crazy. This is insane that how is this happening? Also, shout out to 50 Cent for always just trolling Ja Rule. Like, do y'all remember when he bought 200 200 of his front row concert tickets to Ja Rule's concert just because, and I quote, they was so cheap on Groupon. He just wanted to
I
troll him.
did not know that on group. Oh, on Groupon.
Or he said on GitHub or
What?
some I don't remember where he bought them from, but I do remember he said that they was cheap. So
Oh
that's
my
why he did it.
God.
Yeah,
If
so
50 Cent is calling you cheap, I mean, that is possibly the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'd never heard that before.
he is a king
Okay,
of
so
trolls.
our next story is less about scammers and more maybe about potential scams. We talked about this last week about artificial intelligence in general. Recently, a US federal court has ruled that AI generated music cannot be copyrighted. More specifically, art created by artificial intelligence without human input cannot be copyrighted under US law. It has to have some level of human authorship. Jay, what do you think? Is this enough? Is this good enough? Is this protection enough for artists?
I think it's a really good start. And it's about fucking time that they did something about this, honestly. I think that this is like the best middle ground approach that they could come to because, there's really no stopping the generation of this kind of music out there, but there has to be some kind of limitations put on it. And I think that this is a really good starting point because it protects artists from, you know, losing money to what is essentially their voice. I don't care if it's bits and pieces of it. It's still that person's voice if you really think about it. So, good on this court for making a good decision. It's about
And I was
time.
thinking about it after yeah, it is about time. I was thinking about it after we talked about it last week. But if you said produce this in the style of like Jack Antonoff or Max Martin, that would be dangerous too. Like there's so many ways that you can,
Yeah.
put in an AI generator, all this info. Um, AI is really nothing to fear. You and I talked about how we utilize it last week. We use Fader, we use
Yeah. It's a
ChatGPT,
tool.
all of it. It's a tool that we should all learn to use, but I am really, really happy about some of the alarm bells that have been ringing have forced people in positions of power like this federal judge to act, which has been good because when social media first popped up, we didn't have these protections. And tech was like, oh, we'll just police ourselves because that works every
Mm-mm.
time.
No.
Cambridge Analytica, anyone?
Mm-mm.
So I'm really happy with this result. You're right, it's about
Yeah.
damn time.
Yeah. It's about that time. We don't talk about that. We don't talk
We
about
don't we
her.
don't we don't talk about
We don't
Lizzo.
talk about.
We don't talk about Liz.
Yeah.
Say that we're both Latin without saying that we're both Latin.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to Miley Cyrus. She has new music coming out this week. The song is called Used to Be Young, and it is supposed to accompany an ABC biographical special. I had kind of assumed that since she said she was done with touring, that she would be done with making new music, but apparently not. Apparently, she's just content to hang out in LA and make as much music as possible.
I mean,
I'm about
sometimes,
it.
yeah, sometimes you just gotta, on your weekends, you just gotta go hang out with the cult before you get back into the studio. It's just what people do sometimes, I guess.
Allegedly, which would be such an
Allegedly.
LA thing. Like, yeah, I'm in a cult on the weekends, but during the week, I'm a recording artist.
Yeah, it's just like,
That's the most Los
sh-
Angeles thing I've ever heard.
she's like, I'm going out to the club. And then somebody like across the room is like, "Oh, with your friends, your besties?" And she's like, "No, I'm going out with the,
She looks
I'm going
so
out with the,
good, though.
yeah, I'm going out with the cult homies." What's that movie?
I wish she had a reality show so badly. I would do anything for more Miley.
Oh yeah, that would be really cool, actually.
I would love it. I don't think she would do it. I think somebody else would have to talk her into it.
They might
But
need,
I mean, that would be.
yeah, they might need sub captions for her. I'm not gonna lie, cause she talks like this a lot of the time. So it's it's kind of hard to understand her.
I want her and her dad to have a reality show. Like I want like the real Hannah Montana.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
That'd be great. Some more news, kind of on the artistry front financially. Digital Music News has announced that NFTs are dead. OpenSea, one of the biggest marketplaces for buying and reselling, has said it will no longer collect resale fees because streaming royalties are almost impossible to live off of. NFTs were pitched to artists as a new way of making money. And apparently, NFTs and crypto are on their way out. Jay, what did you think of this news?
That it was a surprise to no one, in all honesty. I just, I never really understood the whole point of NFTs and never really got into it. And now it's very unsurprising to hear that it's literally dead at this point. Like, it's just, you know, the internet will never cease to kind of try to reinvent the wheel, if you will.
No, I think that's kind of its job too. But
Yeah.
like, I remember I had a music business professor who really encouraged us to look at NFTs as like our new way of making money because streaming wasn't going to do it. And and it always just struck me as a grift. Like I'm instantly suspicious
Yeah.
of anything that's not backed by FDIC. And I feel really sorry for people who invested in NFTs, like those ugly monkey things. And I don't think they're ever gonna that's not an investment. Like they're
No.
never gonna recoup that cost.
No, I feel like
Um,
that's only an investment if you're like an artist that like gorillas that has a very specific, character, and you're gonna be selling like merch based around all that stuff, but like digital images and stuff like that, it's just like people can get that anywhere. Why pay for it? So I mean, it just doesn't surprise me at all that this is just not a thing anymore.
No, everyone who told me about it had a hard time explaining it to me. One person explained to me that it is like really detrimental to global warming because the amount of energy it takes to produce NFTs and like track them or something with
Oh
the
my
servers. I
god.
did not understand that, but they said it was really bad for the environment. And my friend Gabe called them no fucking thanks to the NFT. And I was like, I love that. That is exactly what it stands for.
Well, y'all heard it first. Here first. That's what it. That's what NFT actually stands for.
We got the NFT TEA.
Mhm.
Thankfully, independent artists, we still have Bandcamp Fridays. So that right now is usually the best way besides buying merch or going to a show to support your favorite artist. And that is just the advice that we have with the death of NFTs. RIP.
Mhm. Pretty much.
All right,
All
moving
right.
on to the current top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Richmond, North of Richmond by Oliver Anthony Music has shot up to the top of the Billboard Hot 100. And Bad Idea, right, by Olivia Rodrigo entered at number 10. So we have a few changes. I have to say, I think Bad Idea, right, is only there because of TikTok.
I agree. It's, it feels just like a string of like phrases and sounds that would work on TikTok, which again, if that's what she was going for, good on her, but I don't, listening to this song, I'm so sorry if you're like a huge stan of hers, but listening to this song for me was a little bit difficult. At least the first time around. Just not because it was like egregiously terrible or anything, but because I really didn't understand what I was listening to.
I didn't either, and it kept changing so much. But I mean, if she was trying to make a TikTok trend, she was successful. Both the
Yeah.
verse and the chorus are all over my feed. They're two separate trends
Mm.
that people are using right now. It
Well,
was
there
a
you
little
go.
chaotic and confusing. I liked it better the second time I listened to it, and I got
Yeah.
more of the humor of it. But you're right, it does just sound like someone strung together a bunch of TikTok sounds and made it into a somewhat coherent song.
Mhm.
And we love Olivia Rodrigo,
Mhm.
but I again, like with this and Vampire, they're both on the top 10, but I'm not very impressed with them.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know like how long they're gonna last. And I don't know about this album. Like I don't know if it's gonna hit.
It's so weird to me that these two songs are supposedly going to be on the same album because they don't sound anything like each other and they don't really I mean, not every song on an album needs to kind of be that cohesive, but I feel like when you're choosing singles, they should be a representation. They should kind of be a preface to like what it is that we're going to hear on the entire album. And right now I have no idea what this album is going to sound like. The only thing that I know for certain about this album is that a lot of those songs are going to have a lot of F bombs in every single track cuz she loves cursing, which is not a bad
She
thing,
loves that.
but
And
it's surprising.
I thought like the Bad Idea, right? The lyrics of it were a little risque for a former Disney star. I
Yeah,
was like, okay, so
that's why it sort
you're
of feels
doing the thing
weird.
that yeah, that Miley did, where you're just trying to break free from that and rebel from it. I think that's why it also felt weird because Olivia Rodrigo, I feel like she's my little sister talking to me about her first heartbreak. Like that's how
Aw.
I feel about her, as
Yeah.
pejorative as that might be, but like I love her. I adore her. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like if there had been another single in between these two singles, maybe we wouldn't feel that way. But you're right. Like they sound so far apart from one another.
Don't get me wrong though. I still hope that the album's really good. But I just
Me
yeah, like
too.
you said I don't know how I feel about these two songs right now.
I don't either.
Sorry.
Time will tell. Time will tell. I read a Billboard article about this Richmond North of Richmond song. It's extremely controversial. Lots of people either love it or they hate it. They compared the controversy of this song and Aldean's recent number one to artists like the Rolling Stones and Madonna, who also thrived on controversy. And I don't know. Like, I feel like that's a pretty dangerous comparison because I don't I don't think that they thrived on controversy. I think they were just controversial as artists for being like ahead of their time instead of trying to like dig up political muck kind of.
Yeah, I don't think that they went
Um
out of their way to say something that they knew would get a rise from like a certain group of people. It's just kind of for them, my honest opinion or like kind of perception is this is how I am. If you don't like it, oh well. That's just my artistry. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
yeah, I just thought it was kind of a lame comparison. And then moving away from the
Yeah.
controversy, I looking at the song just purely at songcraft, it feels like a first draft to me. The it's a little messy all over the place. I can't sing you back the hook, which was kind of a big thing for me. Like
Yeah.
Richmond, north of Richmond is a really good line, but I think he changes the hook from beginning to end of the chorus. I was a little confused. I it has a double verse in the middle, which I personally don't really like. I've never been a fan of like the double verse. I couldn't
Mm.
tell if there was a pre-chorus or what. Like it's wordy, it's very long. I think it'll probably be in the top 10 for another week, but I don't think it has sticking power.
Yeah. So I have really mixed feelings about this song. I don't know anything about Oliver Anthony. And I kind of
I don't
intentionally,
either.
yeah, I kind of intentionally kept it that way because I wanted to look at just the song itself. And I actually, I really like the idea behind this song because I feel like it's something that a lot of people are feeling right now. And I
Oh
definitely,
yeah, the first verse, I was like, I'm here for this.
yeah, I definitely agree with like what they're trying to say here, but I do agree with you. I don't think I could sing back any of this song. Not just the
No,
hook. I can't, and I listened to it maybe twice in a row, just to really get a feel for it, and it has a lot of like Mumford and Sons vibes to it, which I actually was super weirdly into them for a while. I don't know why, but I mean their
that
stuff,
surprises me.
yeah, their stuff is super catchy, but I
Yeah,
can't, yeah, I can't, remember that. I don't think I'll remember this song a couple in a week from now, to be honest, which is unfortunate.
no. Yeah, I liked his voice. But it's just, at first it started out really well and I was like, "Oh, I relate to this." And then it
Yeah,
got to
same.
verse 2 and verse 3 and I was like, "Oh, I'm uncomfortable. This is making me uncomfortable. These lyrics make me uncomfortable." And then there was no like discernible melody. It was just kind of up and down and all over the place. But which I guess is kind of like typical of this sort of Americana music, to
Mhm.
kind of have some wandering melodies. But at the end of the day, you need a hook. You need a hook. You need a
Yeah.
refrain line that is really memorable.
So, yeah, this song and even the way he performs it to me, and you'll probably agree with this, Nina, is it feels very much like when you're walking into, insert local bar or just Performance Avenue's name here for like an open mic night. And it's just like some guy with a guitar who swears he's like a really deep, prolific songwriter. And this is kind of what comes out. And it's like, okay, you have a good idea, but it's not really refined enough to stick with people. And good on him for making it to the top. Obviously, a lot of people connected to it, but like you said, I don't think this has a lot of staying power,
No, that's a really
really.
good point. It does sound like something that you walk into a bar and you hear. I went to a songwriter night recently, and people were talking about like, oh, the headliner, he was Grammy nominated. He's this, he's that, he's the other. I listened to a 10-minute song that did not have a hook in it, and I cannot sing you back any part of it, nor can I tell you what it was about. Like, it was just nonsense. And he was
Yeah.
singing at the top of his lungs every like third line, which I feel like happens in this song too, where it's just like big belt moment. And it's like, but why? Why are you yelling at me? Is what this feels like.
Right. See, I can't remember that part of it either. Well, I remember that they did it, but I don't remember the words or anything. And that normally should be around where your chorus is
Yeah. Yeah, you should definitely pick up in the chorus.
or your refrain,
And
whatever kind of song you're
or
doing.
chorus or refrain, whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we were lamenting that the Hot 100 itself has not had a whole lot of movement this summer, and we really haven't had a song of the summer. Like, can you name a song of the summer, Jay? Like one that
No.
you think? I can't come up with anything. It's just been too many chill vibes. I mean, I guess Cruel Summer would win it for me. But it's not a new release,
Yeah,
so
so
maybe
it
not.
almost feels like it's hard to count that. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's like I guess it's hard to say. Because I feel like the only like contenders that have been number one for like ever and are like the most memorable are Last Night, Kill Bill, and Flowers, and they none of them are really like summery songs to me. Maybe Flowers, but that's been off the number one spot for like a while now, and
Didn't
even
it come
that,
out in like March?
I think so.
Yeah. It's a great song. I would love to call it Song of the Summer, but if I were
Yeah,
to really pick a song of the summer, it would probably be Last Night. But there hasn't really been like a pop hit that has come out this summer, which is really odd. Where are our pop girlies at?
yeah.
where is I mean Dua came out with Dance the Night with the Barbie movie, but that hasn't seen a whole lot of success in the US.
No, not until recently. It's like number
Yeah.
8 on the chart or something like that. But I still wouldn't call it,
Yeah.
yeah, song of the summer by any means. Sadly, because it probably should be, but it's not, in my opinion.
It I think in the UK it's been number one for a while now. And
I think
so, I
so.
mean, if we're in London, then it's the song of our summer, but unfortunately we are not.
Mm,
So we decided that we were going to talk about some of the GOATs, some of the greatest of all time, some of the songs that had the most sticking power in that number one spot on the Billboard Hot 100. They they parked themselves there and they got comfortable for months at a time. Jay, do you want to start with the most popular or um, sort of the least of the most popular?
I think
Should we
let's
go
start.
top bottom or?
Yeah, I think let's start from like the least to most.
All right. So starting with record breaker Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson featuring Bruno Mars. It was on the charts for 14 weeks and it's in a five-way tie with other songs that we will also get to and talk about. However, this song interests me most because it was also crowned by Billboard as Song of the Decade. And if you really pay attention to the structure of the song, it's just a bunch of choruses strung together. One of our professors used to say, "Oh, it's all frosting, no cake." And that is 10,000% this song. Do you remember when this song came out? What year was it?
Oh, I couldn't tell you, but I do remember when it came out that it was just like everywhere all the
I
time.
want to
It,
say it was
it
like
was
2015.
maybe that sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 2015, 2016. Forgot to add years.
Yeah.
Um, I
So
remember I discovered this song really early. Like, I think I discovered it back in March and I played it for friends and they're like, "What is this nonsense? Like, no, play something that I know that I like," which is so annoying. I have those moments all the time where I'm like, "Listen to this new thing." And people are like, "No, I want familiar. I want comfortable."
yeah,
And then the song exploded. And by the time that it did, I was kind of tired of it.
yeah. I got to it a little bit later, which is probably why like I wasn't as, offended by it or tired of it, but that makes total sense. It's like once no matter how song good a song is, eventually you kind of want to listen to something else at a certain
I
point.
remember it was everywhere that summer. And I love the song, don't get me wrong. And every once in a while, like I'll get annoyed of a song just because I hear it everywhere all the time. And then I take a break from it and I listen to it again and it's excellent.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I remember why I like this so much. And that's what happened for me with this song when we had to study this song
Right.
as the song of the decade.
So what do you think made this song work then, in your opinion?
Uh Honestly, I think it has a really simple melody and really catchy, funny lyrics. The melody itself is only three notes
Mhm.
and it's easy to sing along to. Um, and it's fun. It's just nonsense and fun. It's all choruses. Like if anything that you could identify as a verse is as catchy as a chorus would be.
Yeah.
And Bruno Mars looked like he had the time of his life singing it. He had the time of his life performing it. I mean, it's all frosting, no cake. It's that's why it was so popular, I feel.
Yeah. So one thing I also want to point out to songwriters just getting started is for me, like what works really well about this song is that every section is super hooky. And I think a lot of people when they're first getting started, they wait until the chorus to put in a hook, like something that people will gravitate towards. And that's way too much time to wait. Basically, like we had a professor, Neil Dirks, that basically told us every section needs to be a hook or have something kind of hooky so that it's as memorable as possible. Here the instrumental is hooky, all the different sections like Nina talked about are have some kind of hook. And also because it has like that retro kind of feel to it, it has that kind of familiar thing, that quality that, those people you were talking about earlier were kind of looking for. So it's more accessible, I think, for people that were kind of familiar to this kind of sound because it sounded like that 90s or 80s song to me, Jungle Boogie or whatever it is. It was like in a lot of 90s movies. So I just when I heard it, I was like, "Oh, this is, this feels like something I've heard before." So I can probably get into it a little bit easier.
You're right. The instrumentals are hooky, the vocals are hooky. From the bass line to the guitar to the horns, there are hooks in every section. It does this really cool thing where it has just like EDM risers all of a sudden, and you don't really notice them until you're listening for them. And it does pick up the energy between sections. So it does like ebb and flow a little bit, but it does keep the energy really high and really danceable. But I remember like my older aunts know this song, know every word to it. Like my aunts in Panama know the words to it. My older aunts here know it. Like my mom knows this song. It is a great song to like get all generations up and dancing at weddings and stuff. It's a fun song. It's a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
I do remember though, we had rented a beach house, me and maybe 10 friends or something, and we were all like crammed in a bunk room, like six of us. And one of my friends had been abroad and without internet for 2 months. She was on like a mission trip of some kind. And she had just heard Uptown Funk, and it was 7 in the morning, and she started playing it. And I woke up and I almost ripped her eyeballs out.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, it is
Wow.
too early for
Yeah.
this amount of hype.
Yeah, calm down. I hate morning people. They're the
They're
worst.
the worst.
All right, so
Absolute worst.
let's move on to the next one.
Our next song is I Got a Feeling by the Black Eyed Peas. It was also on number one on the charts for 14 weeks. It came out in 2010. I remember because it was the year that maybe it was 2009, because it was the year that I graduated high school or like my senior year. And I think we listened to it all of my senior year. Um, I watched the video today, and I have to tell you, I think I found the source of literally all of my body issues and the reason why millennials have so much body dysmorphia.
Oh yeah.
It was
The clothes
it
back
was an
then
interesting.
were crazy.
Oh my gosh, I think we
Yeah.
were just moving away from like low rise to high rise jeans. Skinny jeans were still king, and you can tell in this video. I think there were some skirts over jeans moments. It was a trip. It was definitely a trip.
Yeah.
Um, there are a few like really interesting production elements in the song that I think make it work so well at the specific time that it came out. It has a guitar hook about the same time that like alternative rock was really having a mainstream moment. And it's combined with some really obvious EDM features. And then also it's the Black Eyed Peas. So it's kind of like multiple genres all coming together at once.
Yeah, and it also just feels like a song that you could use for multiple different situations. There's always
I
going to be
remember
some
like,
event you could play this at, for sure.
oh, for sure. Just like Uptown Funk, it's also all choruses. It is just a bunch of choruses strung together.
Yeah.
Every section is catchy, is hooky, and it's something every section I can sing back to you. Every single one.
Yeah. Those two are
It
similar.
mostly just relies on the refrain to bring it back together. Like the I got a feeling. It
Mhm.
just keeps bringing you back in, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
It feels really old to me now, but at the time, I think it was really ahead of its time in a pop sense.
Yeah, I agree cuz it had all those different elements like you were talking about, which is totally
I
different
remember loving
than
that song.
yeah, which is totally different than the next song we're going to talk about, I think.
This song feels very dated to me.
Oh,
Very,
really?
very dated.
Okay.
It is We Belong Together, Mariah Carey, which is another one in the 14-week tie. I was so tired of this song. This is another
Really?
one that
It
just was
was on
everywhere.
repeat a lot. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't mind it as much because I am a huge fan of Mariah. I respect the fact that she's just an outstanding vocalist and she also like writes all her own stuff, which not every pop singer can say, but I have another level of respect for people that do both because it's harder. It's a different skill. Um But yeah, I can see why this song could get on somebody's nerves because at the time it was everywhere. And even that's an
It was
understatement.
everywhere. I remember it was on TV. It was in the car. It was on the radio. Every time we turned on pop radio, like this song was playing. Every time we switched stations, this song was playing. I think that's what kind of drove me nuts about it. I listened to it back today and I really liked it. But I remember I used to have a lot of those moments where if a song was just everywhere, it would wear me out, even if I really liked it. I also really love Mariah Carey. I was actually like jamming to her I think last week before the podcast.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I remember this odd story that she wore her wedding dress from her like more recent divorce in this video. So I went back and I
Oh,
watched the video. And if any of y'all want some 2000s nostalgia, this is it.
yeah.
This is the video for you.
Yeah.
It has that really big wedding dress that she had with a huge train and it's her just like rolling around in silk sheets for a lot of it. The plot is she's getting married, and it looks like she was gonna marry like this one older guy, and then ran off with his ne'er-do-well son, who happened to be the guy from Prison Break. It is the most like 2000s thing I think I've seen in such a long time. Uh, it's my favorite thing ever. If you ask me what my favorite music video is, it will be this one for eternity, always, except for, oh, wait, maybe Boyfriend with Usher. I think it's that, and then this is second.
Yeah. I think this one it's the same case as the other ones. There's a hook in every section and it's also just like super relatable. You know, everybody has had a
It is
feeling
really
like this.
relatable.
Yeah, everybody's had a
The
moment like
melodic
this.
rhythms in this felt almost rappy, but they're sung. Like it's very quick, which is not something that we're super used to with Mariah Carey. It's quick, but it's still accessible. Like we understand what she's saying, we can sing along to it, and it's fun to sing along to. Like I found myself singing along to it again. And every section has a hook. Like that's what it is.
Yeah. So,
Bring all the hooks.
exactly. So, our next song is kind of also a piano ballad.
It is. It is Candle in the Wind, the 1997 version. Elton John was on the charts for 14 weeks. This is the version rewritten for Princess Diana after her untimely and very unfortunate death, who was friends with Elton John. And he kind of
Mhm.
rewrote this song for her. It was a horrible tragedy. I remember my mom loved Diana. My aunt was
Mine
obsessed
did
with Princess
too.
Diana.
Yeah, it was really
Like they
weird.
remember where they were when they found out she died.
Mhm.
Like it was one of those moments in history. So with this song, it's an artist's own re-release. And I think in horrible tragedies, like we reach for something familiar. So it was nice to have a song trending that was for her, but also familiar. I think it was kind of like a way to help people through their grief at the time. I don't necessarily know if there's anything that we can glean from this song as songwriters. I listened back to it today.
No,
Nothing felt really like big to me.
sometimes I think this is a case of just something that was like very timely. And
I think you're right.
sometimes that's all it ultimately boils down to. Just because it's like this is a great song, but it is, very of its time as well.
Yeah.
So it's like,
The
the standards are
that
kind of
chorus,
different now.
yeah, that chorus will always be one of my favorites.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
original Candle in the Wind. I'm an Elton John stan. He's the person that I think I would probably pass out if I met like that one
Oh,
artist that I would just absolutely freak out if I met him.
I'd
Um,
be a little starstruck
but
too. Yeah, I get
yeah,
that.
well, I'm really happy that he's on the list. I think you're right. I think this is just a really timely moment. It's a screenshot in of a moment of time where the whole world was grieving this one very unfortunate loss.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next song, it is The Macarena by Los de Rio, and it was on for 14 weeks. I could not believe that The Macarena was on this list.
What?
I do think I heard it at every party as a child in the 90s. I don't remember like a pool party that didn't have this song at one point.
Yeah. I mean, I this is still played at like weddings and stuff. I just can't. I mean, the Cupid Shuffle wasn't on Billboard for that long, so that's shocking. Like, I vaguely remember hearing that this song was up there for a couple weeks, but I didn't know it was that long. 14 weeks is a lot.
I
What?
recently watched a video where people find out what it's about. People who don't speak Spanish
Oh,
learn that
that's funny.
it's it's part of their childhood, and so it's nostalgia, and they find out that it's about a girl named Macarena who cheats on her boyfriend with two of his friends while he's being drafted into the army, and they are mortified.
Wow.
Yeah. Um it's kind of a very catchy Dear John. It's kind of awful. Um it's it's a really simple like rhythm in terms of
Yeah,
Latin rhythms.
I'm trying to
It
think of
has like
like,
that clave rhythm that's really ear candy that we love to listen to because it feels like we're waiting for the next thing, and it also gets you moving. I think it also has a really good non-lyric hook in it.
mhm.
Um, but it's there are words that are like really identifiable to English speakers, like "Hey, Macarena." We all know that. For people who like don't speak Spanish, I feel like this song has an accessible hook in it.
Yeah. But I'm just wondering like what it is that made this one kind of, stand out amongst its peers. I guess it's just because of how weird it is. Because
I think so.
because almost everything on Billboard has a hook at some point. I mean, this one does too, obviously, but I think because this one's like so bizarre and probably immediately got airplay at like, weddings and discos and stuff like that, it was just kind of easy to grab onto like, what is this weird song? And also, they put the main hook on, the title of the song, which
Yeah, they did.
sometimes artists don't do nowadays. Like Kill Bill, for example, it was, they don't actually she doesn't actually use the title of the song, which I mean in her case it worked, but usually it doesn't.
That's kind of an outlier. But
Yeah.
you're right. It's kind of becoming like popular to name your song something that is not a lyric, that like Kill Bill, like you said. But this one is just like, here's our title over and over and over again. You're going to know what our title is. You're going to be able to tell everybody what it
Hmm.
is. Um, it's, I don't know. I think it came with a dance. It was one of those. It's the only one on this list that has a dance to it, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it was. I think it was the rhythm, the hook, and the dance.
Yeah.
Because the dance was accessible too. Like anybody can really do it.
That's true. Well,
Our next
moving
song
on.
is we're going to, I think, the most iconic R&B song of all time, and it's "I'll Make Love to You"
Ooh.
by Boys to Men. It was on the
Mm.
charts for 14 weeks. Um, this is the song that I think of when I think of like the caricature of R&B, but when I listen back to it again, it is a perfect pop ballad. I listened to it today and I couldn't help laughing because I've seen it in so many comedy movies and like really weird spots. I think it might have been in one of the Deadpool movies. Um,
Oh, really?
but the
That's funny.
harmonies are so gorgeous in it. Like when I took a minute to listen to it and I was like, this is so catchy. It's so good. It's perfect. It's a perfect pop ballad. Like this is how you write a pop ballad.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's That's so funny because the only other song that I would put up there as like maybe being the most iconic R&B song is "End of the Road," which is also by Boys to Men. So they really were like,
This came
how do you
after End of the Road. So this was their
yeah,
next big success. I think
yeah,
it was the following year or something like that.
yeah.
I think
How do
this
you
song also
sheesh.
works
Legends?
super well because they know their audience,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They
That's a
know
good
who's
point.
listening to them.
Mhm.
it's women. Like there have been so many times where artists have forgot who their audience is or even like resented their audience. Like we've been talking about this with Doja Cat a little bit
JoJo.
about how she kind of hates her fans and she wants to be more artsy and this, that, or the other. Boys to Men, they knew who their audience was. It was horny moms who feel underappreciated and all they want is some
Yeah.
candlelight and some wine and somebody
They
to make
know
love to them.
they knew that they were a boy band, but they were like, "Oh, but we also have like really great vocals, which sets us apart from some of the other boy bands out there, which are just kind of like meh." So, I mean, they use that to their advantage. So, I think this is a good case of just like being self-aware to your, yeah, like you
They
said, your
are,
audience.
I think, the best singers of all the boy bands. They were kind of
Oh,
a boy band
yeah.
before the term boy band existed.
Yeah.
I would even term them like a man band. Like they just have like more
Yeah.
energy. They have more presence than like boy band. I don't know. I every time I hear Boys to Men, I am reminded just how phenomenal these men sing and sing all together.
Yeah.
I love Boys to Men. But
Same.
speaking to like knowing your audience, I feel like multiple boy bands have forgotten their audience because they've been made fun of by like music reviewers who are disproportionately male and who think anything that women really love is silly. Our friend Katie Landry touched on some of that when we were talking about the Barbie movie a few weeks ago. But they were like, no, we know exactly who our audience is, and we're going to sell to our audience. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Or they just want like a different fan base in general. Like Zayn. Like he's not wrong. So sometimes it's just like you don't want to get
Yeah,
stuck in sometimes you just don't want to get stuck into a box either. So I mean good for them for if they realize that and make it work. But kudos to Boys to Men for making it work to like their audience at the time.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So moving on.
Our next song, which is the last of the 14-week tie, is I Will Always Love You, the Whitney Houston rendition. It was originally written by Dolly Parton and it was reimagined for Whitney Houston to sing for the movie she was starring in, The Bodyguard. They were originally going to go with What Becomes of the Brokenhearted, but another movie had done that recently. And that kind of breaks my heart because that is one of my favorite songs of all time. And I would have loved to hear like Whitney's rendition of What Becomes of the Brokenhearted.
Oh,
But I think this song was actually more perfect for this. I think it was perfect for that moment in the movie. The movie was a huge explosive success, and I mean, Whitney sings it through the roof.
yeah. I feel like a shortcut to getting like a big hit and like just like why this song in general works is it's it's kind of one of the ultimate wedding songs and you almost can't go wrong there, you know.
No. Okay, so I have actually a really big pet peeve with people who play breakup music at weddings, even if the song is really trendy. Because
Mm,
this song is about leaving someone and knowing that you're no good for them. Dolly Parton actually wrote it for her former co-star and boss, Porter Wagner. For anyone who's really interested on the story, there's a podcast called Dolly Parton's America, and it tells the whole story of this. It's really fascinating. They had a really, really toxic and odd relationship. I think if the term work wife existed, that's what he would have probably referred to her as. But apparently she wrote this song for him, and I think the deal was in exchange for a cut of the profit, he would let her out of her contract for being on his variety show.
yeah.
So Dolly Parton, absolute queen. And
Mm.
apparently, Whitney, after the song was released, called Dolly and said, "How do you like it?" And Dolly said she loved it. She was over the moon about it. And she said, "Do you want to go through my catalog? Is there anything else of
Is
mine
there
that
anything
you
else
want
you
to
want?
sing?"
Yeah,
I think I would take Dolly up on that.
I would too. All right.
Um,
Mm.
I love Dolly Parton's rendition. I love Whitney's rendition. You and I have talked about this before. This really crossed genres, and I think a really good like song can do that with a simple concept, a good memorable melody, something relatable. I mean, Dolly's is much more vulnerable. Whitney's is these big powerhouse vocals that are memorable to the end of time. And I would say it's the Whitney vocal performance that we all remember when we think of Whitney Houston.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this song
Yeah.
is legendary.
I think of this song before I think of I Want to Dance with Somebody.
I do too.
Yeah. Our next song is the one who broke this at 15 weeks. It was As It Was by Harry Styles, who also won the Grammy for his album. This also has a heavy dose of nostalgia in the topic of the song, the concept, and in the feel of it.
I I don't know. I mean, this song is like really catchy and it's like nostalgic. It doesn't really, I do like some of I actually like some of Harry Styles' other songs better than this, but I mean, I
I
get
do
why
too. There were other
I
songs
get why
on the album
people
itself.
yeah, I get why people like this one, but it's, you know, not my favorite other than just it has a lot of hooks. It is
There's so
catchy.
many hooks. I think there's an emotional element to like the descending the descending melody, because it's like, it's not the same as it was, and it kind of goes down like things are going downhill. And
Yeah,
I thought that was really good.
so
I
it makes
remember
sense.
listening to this song in the car with my mom, and she was like, "Who is this? I love this song." She's like, "No, I love this." I was like, "Mom, it's Harry Styles' new song." She's like, "Oh my gosh, like play more." My mom does not listen to new music. She wants to only listen to like stuff from when she was in high school or when she was a young adult. Like that's her favorite kind of stuff. I try to introduce her to new music all the time. The only new music that she ever likes is mine and my friends, just because she loves us. But we wound up listening to this whole album. I mean, she loved it. And when I studied it, like line for line, it is exactly dead solid perfect. It has the same number of syllables. The melody does not fluctuate.
Oh wow.
It has these specific motifs. Like it's like he took our course on writing pop music and he hammered it every single time. It was really interesting to do a deep dive on that.
Mm. Yeah, it's a well-written song. It's just I don't know.
It
I
is a
think
well-written song.
yeah, cool.
I also think it was a bit of a TikTok trend for a minute. I think that's what might have gotten it to 15.
Mhm.
So
Cool.
our next song we've talked about so much ad nauseum, and it is in a three-way tie, is Last Night with Morgan Wallen at 16 weeks. I say we tell our listeners to go check out our other episodes,
Yeah,
because we've talked about this. We talked about it at length our last episode.
last week and the first one. So go check that one out. Like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with all the other episodes. Cool.
Love it. So let's move on to Despacito. This is Louis Fonsi and Daddy Yankee featuring Justin Bieber. It is the Justin Bieber version, which I think is really what launched this song, but my preferred version is the one without Biebs. Sorry, Bieber, I love you, but it was just a little bit odd. Um,
I
I
ag-
think
I ag-
this is
yeah. No, I was gonna say
I
I
think this is how
agree.
you write
Good.
a Latin hit.
Yeah.
This is how you write a Latin hit. It's got a really accessible beat. It's kind of this cumbia meets like pop meets reggaeton. And it has a word that is accessible to English speakers, which is despacito. Like we can all sing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is for me proof that like melody is always going to supersede lyrics in terms of like what people are going to remember. So I think that's the big takeaway from this one. And what I was going to say is I agree I like the original version more, but I think the reason why it was so successful on Billboard is because of that just collaboration aspect. That's always going to intrigue more fans in general to kind of explore, oh, what are these two doing together? What is this? It's always going to spark that thought of like, oh, what is a song with these artists going to sound like? So people are always going to be interested to click on that.
Also, Justin Bieber has a huge, very avid fan base,
Yeah.
and that will help because we all know a massive believer. Like I can think of two in my life, three, four right now. So most of them are younger cousins, but still.
Yeah. I can think of
So
two
like
as
I
well.
think that kind of what is what brought the song into the US mainstream. It was co-written by a Panamania, Erica Ender. I gotta say, I'm so proud of my little Ismas. Um, but I do have to say, if I had one more gringo friend ask me what the song was about, I was going to lose my mind because it
Yeah.
would come on and my friends would be like, "What is this about?" And I'm trying to dance when the song comes on. Leave me alone.
It's not that this song is not that deep. Just so you guys know out there, if you don't speak or if you all don't know out there and you don't speak Spanish, it's not that deep. It's just a song about dancing slowly. That's it. That's your whole takeaway from it. It's
And
catchy because of the melody. That's it.
and comparing it to other
Yeah.
elements that you can do slowly,
Yeah. It's not
that
Shakespeare.
are similar to dancing. There's an element of that. But I was so annoyed because people would stop me and I'm like getting down to the song because it was so good.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What is this about?" I'm like, "Look it up on your phone."
Yeah.
Elizabeth,
Cool.
leave me alone. Stop asking your Latin friends to translate things for you. Google Translate exists.
Yeah. So let's
Okay,
move
so in
on.
the three-way tie, pardon?
Oh no, I said let's look at our next song.
Okay. It is One Sweet Day, Mariah Carey and Boys to Men, and it was on the charts for 16 weeks. Mariah Carey wrote the chorus. She was working on it after her friend and collaborator David Cole passed away. She had like a working section, and Boys to Men, it turned out, were doing a similar song to honor the same person, and they came together for this really huge R&B hit. One odd note about it. Do you remember that document that I had of all of like the keys
Yes.
that we used to all of the keys and what like composers used to think that they meant?
Yeah. Yeah, so
So this is in A flat major.
Nina had this
Yeah.
chart of just like different keys and whatnot, and each of them had like really weird Baroque Shakespearean like descriptions of what each key stands for. It was wild.
It was so good. One of them is like womanly longing or something.
Mm-hmm. Some Jane Austen. Yeah, like Jane
I
Austen
should
shit.
honestly, I should make a TikTok about it. But
Yeah.
so this one was an A flat major. I will always remember this because A flat major is considered the key of the grave. And that kind of shook me when talking about like someone looking
This
down on you
song.
from heaven.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
crazy.
I was like, "Ooh, oh my gosh." This song to me, it's a good song. It's a really sweet sentiment. Someone like I know you're looking down on me from heaven, and one sweet day, like we'll be together again. I think it's a very sweet song. No one come for me. It's a good song. It just feels really, really dated.
Yeah, it's very of its time. I'll say that. And it uses some words, I think, if I remember correctly, that you wouldn't normally use as well. But that's like a nitpicky thing. Um,
Yeah.
I think more so it's just like the overall sound, um, like instrument choice also that doesn't help it in its favor. But I still like this song, and I'm glad that it is one of the, goats of Billboard because it is, it's coming from two legends. And again, that shows that collaborative power. Um, but also it's a song that you wouldn't normally expect to see on Billboard. You normally wouldn't see something about like, honoring a dead person on there. But for me, a lot of the super big hits, um, like one of our professors, Bonnie Hayes, also said was that, one thing that they all have in common is that they break one of the rules. I think this one does a good job of that as well. But yeah, overall, I think it's a great song. But I don't necessarily know that there's too many takeaways that would work from it from a songwriting standard now.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful song. It's a great song. I'm happy it is where it is. I'm happy it's a goat, but it's very timely. It's of its time, which has been a couple of these. So we'll see if some more records are broken in the coming years.
Hmm.
Our final one, it was on the number one spot for a total of 18 weeks. It is credited sometimes as 19, but the song had one at the top, and then the other 18 weeks were this remix. It is Old Town Road, Lil Nas X featuring Billy Ray Cyrus. I I love this song. I
I
was
do
listening to it
too.
today and I
Yeah.
forgot how much I love this
It's just,
song.
I mean, sometimes you don't have to be like this prolific, pretentious songwriter out there. Sometimes it's okay just to have fun. I feel like a lot of these songs have that in common. Is that really they're just, some of them are really big ballads, but I feel like those are the outliers. But the big ones are just like fun. This song is fun. It's current. It takes something familiar from two different genres and marries them together pretty well. I think that's what kind of leads to its success. It's just the fact that it's hooky, it's a collaboration, a weird collaboration at that, and it takes two super big prevalent genres together and does a pretty good job of marrying them together. Like incorporating hip hop and country doesn't always work for me. I think it works with this song.
It works so well. The lyrics are so funny to me. They're like a caricature of country music, but it's like a loving caricature. Like it's done with love and respect. Like when I make fun of country music, I love country music, but you got to make fun of it. It talks about like his dog and I cheated on my baby. And he does such a good Southern accent with that. It's delicious. But when you talk about the collaboration, it gets even weirder because my favorite story about this song is it's based on a banjo line from a Nine Inch Nails song. So Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross have writing credits on this song.
That's amazing.
It's taken from a sample of Nine Inch Nails. So the producer who made the beat used a Nine Inch Nails sample and then put the beat up online and Lil Nas top line to it. And I think that just makes the song so current because that's what so many artists are doing today is they're sampling and they're finding beats online and they're writing to the beat, which is essentially just top lining.
Yeah, it just works together well.
And I love that Billy Ray hopped on it to give Lil Nas some credibility, some
I
street cred
know.
with the country folk.
I know, and shout out to Billy Ray for having such a mega hit under his belt. Who thought that would happen?
Yeah, I
It's
haven't.
very
I
unexpected.
I didn't think we. I didn't think we'd get anything after Achy Breaky Heart.
Goes to show you never know what will happen.
You never know. Every single Achy Breaky Heart joke on Hannah Montana made me laugh out loud every time.
I know. I know it's like corny when shows do stuff like that, but I like when they're like self-referential like that. I think it's funny. I think it's clever, and I think it's like, oh, you know who your audience kind of sort of is.
It's very meta. I love when people can make fun of themselves too. It
Yeah.
just it speaks well of their character. So we're going into our
Cool.
final segment this week, our playback picks of the week. Jay, what is your playback pick this week?
So mine is Sweet Dreams by La Bouche. And the reason why is because this song is basically if Planet of the Bass was like a real song. Like it literally just feels like this is the song that they were going for, especially like the rap section of this song. It's like they listened to that and they were like, that's what we're gonna make fun of. But Sweet Dreams is just in its own right. It's a really good song. Like it has a really good
Yeah.
non-lyric hook in it. And Melanie Thornton, which, rest in peace, she died so young at 34, which
Oh
is
my God.
yeah, which is so shocking to me. And she was such a great vocalist. I feel like when Whitney Houston was starting to get more into like dance stuff, I feel like that's the kind of voice and sound that she was going for. Um I could be wrong about that. But yeah, this is unironically one of my favorite dance songs because it's catchy with the instrumental. It's sung really, really well. They did a really cool live version of it, so check that out if you haven't before. It has a great non-lyric hook and it has like a really weird rap section in the middle that is English but doesn't really feel like English, which is what a lot of these songs do. But yeah, that's my playback pick of the week.
Well, like you said with Despacito, melody rules. Melody rules over
Yes,
lyrics every
absolutely.
time. Okay, so my playback pick this week, um, you know this. I would die for this man. Hosier released his new album, Unreal Unearthed. So it's written about Dante's Inferno, the epic poem, which is one of my favorite things I ever studied in high school English. And we had such a cool English teacher that like we had fun reading it and all of my friends had fun reading it. And we used to like think it was funny to tell each other which circle of hell we were going to go to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
funny.
it'd be like, you're going to the fourth circle of hell. And this is back when I knew all the circles off the top of my head.
That's
Some really
hilarious.
notable songs are De Selby Part 2, Francesca, Damage Gets Done, featuring Brandy Carlisle, and Unknown slash Nth. I don't know specifically how to say that. It's about the ninth circle. It's dark, it's moody, it's earthy. He's one of my favorite male vocalists of all time.
Yeah,
Of all
same,
time.
same. Very like deep,
I mean,
rich voice.
it's it's truly like it I don't know how
It's
I'm
like
I'm literally at a loss for words.
it's like Lord of. I've only heard like half the album so far, but it's like Lord of the Rings meets like current soul and like rock and is so many other influence. Just it's like a very earthy sounding album, just like you would expect from him, but it's also like
I mean,
ethereal at the same time. I have a friend, I'm not gonna say their name, but because they pick up the Lord of the Rings vibes so much, they refer to Hosier as Elf Daddy, and I always think of him that way now. I just
oh my
when I
god.
see him or just even read his name, my brain immediately goes Elf Daddy before anything else.
I feel like that tracks. Did have you heard he's like 6'5" or 6'7" or
Yeah,
something? Like he is huge.
yeah,
I've seen him twice live. If you have the opportunity to see him live, it's incredible. All of his musicians are incredible too. He's just always got a really good band with him. Great people doing great work on stage, and I love to see it. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen. This album has true heartbreak on it. It's got some moments of levity. It's got some really like deep, dark discussions on it. And it's interesting. I'm hearing something new every time I listen to it, and I love it. And I love you, Hosier. I
yeah.
love you so much.
It's great.
Loving Hosier and watching Dairy Girls is like the closest I ever get to celebrating my little bit of Irish heritage.
Irishness.
Like that's about
Yeah,
it.
that's funny. I was just watching part of that show the other day with my friend.
Oh, I
It's
love that show.
yeah,
All right, guys,
cool.
that is our episode. Jay, do you have any words of wisdom for the listeners back at home?
No, but go out and write a fun song. Don't feel like you have to be a martyr every time you make art. Sometimes it's just what's fun will connect with people more, as we just saw with some of the songs we talked about today.
I feel that we all need a little more fun and bright and happy in the world for sure these days. All right, guys, stay safe. Go make some good in the world. Go make some good art in the world, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.